I'm Joe Bev, and this is the Joe Bev Show. This time on the Joe Bev Show, Part 2 of Laurel and Hardy in their version of the Courtship of Miles Standish, a Speedy Snail race, Soppo the Giant, and Brute Ballingham Chapter 10, The High Widow. Coming up on the Joe Bev Show. This story occurs under the blue skies and bluer laws of Puritan New England, in the days when religion was still taken seriously by a great many people, and in the town of Plymouth, where the Mayflower, having ploughed its platitudinous way from Holland, had landed its precious cargo of pious right-thinkers, moral gentlemen of God, and Priscilla.
What are you doing?
Well, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm going to ring the bell.
I was going to ring the bell.
Well, what good is you ringing the bell if you're not going in there?
I'm going in there.
No, you're not. I'm going in there.
I came to see Priscilla first.
Well, it's a good thing I got here ahead of you then.
I'm going to ask Priscilla to marry me.
I bet you don't. I bet you're scared.
Well, I am a little scared. Priscilla is wonderful.
She certainly is. Say, you know what? You shouldn't go in there. I should. And I should talk you up. This way, when you ask her to marry you, she'll understand what a great guy you are, John Alden.
That's a good idea. Tell me that again, Miles Standish.
Well, if you go in there first, and then she'll think you're a big man, and you'll spread your large ass all over the place.
I'll spread my what?
Your largesse.
My largesse?
That just means you're a big fella.
I certainly am. Help me prepare to ask her to marry me. Tell me something about her.
Well, all right. Priscilla has yellow hair.
I know she has yellow hair. Tell me something I don't know that I can use to my advantage.
All right. You know she has yellow hair.
Stop about the yellow hair.
I toddled over to the country club dance the other night, and I first noticed that she had a glorious mass of bobbed corn-colored locks. If you had been there, you would have glanced idly at her too, and you would have said, "Oh my gosh," and then you would have introduced yourself, and after dancing 9 feet, you would have cut in on another fella and danced with her till you had delirious feet. You then would have borrowed somebody's flask and gone into the locker room and got an edge. Not a bachelor dinner edge, but just enough to give you the proper amount of confidence. Then you would have returned to the ballroom, cut in on this Priscilla, and taken her and your edge out to a convenient limousine, and nobody'd be any the wiser.
It was just such a yellow-haired Priscilla that Homer dreamed when he smote his lyre and chanted, I sing of arms and the men.
Like 2 peas in a pot. Not pot. Pod. Pod. I knew what it was, but I couldn't say it. 2 peas in a pot.
I say it was love at first sight, rarer than Ben Jonson's Dr. Faustus, when he cried, was this the face that launched 1,000 ships? Now, here in modern 1620, I have found the pagan daughter of Helen of Troy and Cleopatra of the Nile. And by some characteristic jest of the great ironist, to have embarked with her aunt on the Mayflower.
And it's a good thing, too. Like old girls of 18, Priscilla has learned to kiss. And to be kissed on every possible occasion. In fact, she's probably kissing somebody in there right now.
Oh, I better get in there.
Wait a minute, I haven't finished.
Well, go ahead.
All right. In the exotic and not at all uncommon pleasure of petting, she has acquired infinite wisdom and complete disillusionment, whatever that means. But in all her petting parties on the Mayflower and here in Plymouth, she has found no Puritan who has held her interest beyond the first kiss. And she has lately reverted in sheer boredom to her boarding school habit of drinking gin in large quantities, a habit which is not entirely approved of by her old-fashioned aunt, although Mrs. Brewster was glad to have her niece stay here in the evenings, instead of running around with those boys. And you know, Priscilla says some of the funniest things. You know, when she gets a little boiled, as she called it.
All right, that's enough.
Mrs. Brewster, Priscilla's aunt, is the ancestor of all New England aunts. She may be seen today walking down Tremont Street in Boston in her educator shoes on her way to S.S. Pierce's, which she pronounces to rhyme with hearse. The 20th century Mrs. Brewster wears a high-necked black silk waist with a chatelaine watch pinched over her left breast and a spot of Gordon's codfish, no bones, over her right. When a little girl, she was taken to see Longfellow, Lowell, and Ralph Waldo Emerson. She speaks familiarly of the James Boys, but this is no reference to the well-known Missouri Outlaws. She was brought up on Blueberry Cake, Postum, and the Atlantic Monthly. She loves the Boston Transcribe, God and her relatives in Newton Center. Her idea of a darling joke is the remark Susan Hale made to Edward Everett Hale about sending underwear to the heathen. She once asked Donald Ogden Stewart to dinner with her niece. She didn't think his story about the lady mind reader who read the man's mind and then slapped his face was very funny, and she never asked him again. The action of this story all takes place in Mrs. Brewster's Plymouth home on 2 successive June evenings. As the figurative curtain rises, Mrs. Brewster is sitting at a desk reading the latest installment of Fox's Book of Martyrs. The sound of a clanking sword is heard outside. Mrs. Brewster looks up, smiles to herself, and goes on reading. A knock. A timid knock.
Oh! Come in.
Enter Captain Miles Standish, whiskered and 40. In a later generation, with that imposing mustache and his hatred of Indians, Miles would have undoubtedly have been a bank president. At present he seems somewhat ill at ease, and obviously relieved to find only Priscilla's aunt at home.
Good evening, Captain Standish.
Good evening, Mrs. Brewster. It's cool for June, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose we'll pay for it with a hot July, though.
Yes, Yes, but it is cool for June, isn't it?
So you said. So you said, Captain.
So I said, didn't I? Mistress Priscilla isn't home then?
I don't think so, Captain. But I never can be sure where Priscilla is.
She's a fine girl, isn't she? A fine girl.
Why, yes. Of course, Priscilla has her faults, but she'd make some man a fine wife, some man who knew how to handle her. An older man with experience.
Do you really think so, Mrs. Brewster? Do you think Priscilla is thinking about marrying anybody in particular?
Well, I can't say, Captain. You know, she's a little wild. Her mother was wild too, you know, though that is before the Lord spoke to her. They say she used to be seen at the Mermaid Tavern in London with all those play-acting people. She always used to say that Priscilla would marry a military man.
A military man? Well now, tell me, Mrs. Brewster, do you think that a sweet, delicate creature like Priscilla...
Oh, damn!
Oh, that must be Priscilla now.
Auntie!
Yes, Priscilla, dear?
Where the hell did you put the vermouth?
In the cupboard, dear. I do hope you aren't going to get a boiled again tonight, Priscilla.
Where's my Dr. Macon medicine? I need my medicine! Dr. Macon! Oh, Auntie! That was a dirty trick, hiding my vermouth. Hello, Miles. Shoot many Indians today?
Why, no, Mistress Priscilla.
I wish you'd take me with you next time, Miles. I'd love to shoot an Indian. Wouldn't you, Auntie?
Priscilla, what an idea. And please, dear, give Auntie Brewster the gin. I promised to take some to the church social, and it's almost all gone now.
Say, I didn't see you at church last night, Mistress Priscilla.
Well, I'll tell you, Miles. I started to go to church. Really, I really felt awfully religious last night. But then, just as I was leaving, I thought, Priscilla, what about a drink? Just one little drink. Miles, church goes so much better when you get just a little boiled. The lights and everything just kind of, it's glorious. Well, last night after I had a little liquor, just a little bit. The funniest thing happened. You know what? I felt awfully good. Not like church at all. So I just thought, well, I'll take a walk in the woods. And I came to a pool. A wonderful, honest-to-God pool. With the moon shining right up there in the middle of it. And so I just undressed. I undressed and I dove in. And it was the most marvelous thing in the world. And then I danced. I danced on the bank in the grass in the moonlight. Oh, Lordy, Miles, you ought to have seen it.
Priscilla!
Excuse me, Auntie Brewster. And then I just lay in the grass and I sang and I laughed.
Dear, you'll catch your death of cold one of these nights. I hope you'll excuse me, Captain Standish. It's time I was going to our social. I'll leave Priscilla to entertain you. Now be a good girl, Priscilla, and please, dear, don't drink straight vermouth. Remember what happened last time. Good night, Captain. Good night, dear. I'll just take this bottle with me.
Oh, damn. Now what do we do? She took the bottle. Miles, I'm getting awfully sleepy.
Well, we might pet a bit.
No, I'm too tired. Besides, I hate whiskers. I like whiskey, but I hate whiskers.
Yes, that's so. I remember.
Then 10 minutes of silence, with Miles looking sentimentally into the fireplace. Priscilla curled up in a chair on the other side.
Say, Priscilla, I was, your auntie and I were talking about you before you came in, you see, and it was, it was a talk that meant a lot to me.
Miles, would you mind closing the window?
And your auntie told me that your mother said that you would someday marry a military man.
Miles, would you mind passing me that pillow over there?
And I thought that if you wanted a military man, why, well, I always thought a great deal of you, Mistress Priscilla. And since me Rose died, and I've been pretty lonely, and while I'm nothing but a rough old soldier, yet, well, what I'm driving at is, you see, maybe you and I could sort of, maybe. Oh!
Spit it out, Miles, spit it out.
I'm not much of a hand at fancy love speeches and all that, but will you marry me?
Miles is interrupted by a snore. He glances up and sees that Priscilla has fallen fast asleep. He sits looking hopelessly into the fireplace for a long time, then gets up, puts on his hat, and tiptoes out of the door. The next evening, Priscilla is sitting alone, lost in her reverie, before the fire. It is almost as if she has not moved since the evening before. A knock, and the door opens to admit John Alden, nonchalant, disillusioned, and 21.
I hope I don't bother you.
Oh, the only people who bother me are women who tell me I'm beautiful and men who don't.
Not a brilliant epigram, but still, yes, you are beautiful.
Of course, if it's an effort for you to say so.
Nothing is worthwhile without effort, my dear.
Oh, sounds like Miles Standish. Many things I do without effort are worthwhile. Why, I'm beautiful without the slightest effort.
Yes, you are right. I could kiss you without any effort, and that would be worthwhile. Perhaps. Boop-boop-be-doop.
Oh, kissing me would prove nothing. I kiss as casually as I breathe.
And I might say, if you didn't breathe or kiss, you would die.
Why, any woman would.
Then you are like other women. How unfortunate.
I'm like no woman you ever knew.
You arouse my curiosity.
Curiosity killed a cat.
A cat may look at a queen.
And the queen keeps cats for her amusement. They purr so delightfully when she pets them.
I never learned to purr. It must be amusing for the queen.
Here, let me teach you. I'm starting a new class tonight.
I'm afraid I couldn't afford to pay the tuition.
For a few exceptionally meritorious pupils, various scholarships and fellowships have been provided.
By whom? Old graduates?
No, the institution has been endowed by God.
With exceptional beauty. I'm afraid I'm going to kiss you. Now.
They kiss. 10 minutes pass.
Will you stop in that insane way?
I just happened to think of something awfully funny. You know the reason why I came over here tonight?
Oh, to see me. I wondered why you hadn't come months ago.
No, it's really awfully funny. But I came here tonight because Miles Standish made me. He made me promise this morning to ask you to marry him. Miles is an awfully good egg, really, Priscilla.
Speak for thyself, John. Again.
And again, and again, and again. Oh, Lord, I'm gone.
An hour later, John leaves. As the door closes behind him, Priscilla sinks back into her chair before the fireplace. An hour passes. She does not move. Her aunt returns from the Bradfords, and after a few ineffectual attempts at conversation, goes to bed alone. The candles gutter, flicker, and die out. The room is filled with moonlight, softly stealing through the silken skein of sacred silence. Once more the clock chimes forth the hour of fluted peace, of death desire and epic love. Oh, not for I, Endymion. Mayst thou unfold the purple panoply of priceless years? She sleeps. Priscilla sleeps. And down the palimpsest of old passion, the lyres of night breathe forth their poignant praise. She sleeps, eternal Helen, in the moonlight of 1,000 years, immortal symbol of immortal eons, flower of the gods transplanted on a foreign shore, infinitely rare and infinitely erotic.
And a hearty good afternoon, ladies and gentle snails. This is Trevor Slug, your favorite commentator, speaking to you from the greatest snail racing stadium of them all, the lettuce patch of Auntie Donna. This reporter sees an unforgettable day ahead of us, in which the great Trailblazer will try to beat, for the 5th time, his own world speed record. And here he is now, ladies and gentlemen, Trailblazer, entering the arena and doing his famous warm-up exercises. The participants take their places at the starting line, and the race begins. As one would expect, Trailblazer takes a quarter-inch lead and continues putting daylight between himself and the competition. Ladies and gentlemen, his progress is spectacular. In less than 10 minutes, Trailblazer has covered the first yard. And he's approaching the finish line way out in front.
Attention all spectators.
Just a moment.
Attention all spectators.
What is that?
These are the emergency services speaking to you on the PA system. We have an emergency. A bird has entered Auntie Donna's vegetable patch. Everyone hide and run under the nearest lettuce leaf. We repeat, everyone run and hide under the nearest lettuce leaf.
Hello. If you are wondering, this is Trevor Slug, reporting the emergency in whispers. Live from under a lettuce leaf. Practically all the snails are safe, but Trailblazer is still out on the track. He seems to have great confidence that his lightning speed will allow him to escape. There, we see him, saluting the cameras, cheerfully gesturing, still determined to beat his record. Oh no! Ladies and gentlemen, a great tragedy has just occurred. The incredible reflexes and speed of Trailblazer were just not enough to help him escape a high-velocity bird swoop. This is without a doubt a great calamity for the sport of snail racing. We can still see, with our own antennae, the bird flying away with our champion in its claws. But wait, the bird has let Trailblazer escape. He's falling. Incredible, ladies and gentlemen. He has fallen right by me. Run, champion, run. Come on over here and hide. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is just spectacular. We have kept silent for several minutes and have been able to witness, live and up close, Trailblazer's incredible adventure. Only by a matter of inches did he escape certain death. Congratulations, champ. Do you have anything to say to our audience at home? Yes, Trevor, I have a fear of death, and didn't realize that, despite being the fastest snail ever, I could never hope to match the speed of a bird. To tell you the truth, I was a bit lucky. My shell is slightly damaged, but, well, I've learned a good lesson in humility. I am not the greatest. Thank you, Trailblazer. You have witnessed this historic moment, live from Auntie Donna's lettuce patch. This is Trevor Slug, leaving you with this thought. To be good at something doesn't make us invincible. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our program. And don't forget to eat as much lettuce as you want. There's too much here for Auntie Donna. The end.
I'm Joe Bev, and this is the Joe Bev Show.
Soppo was an enormous giant, the biggest there had ever been. He could drink a river dry. Or eat a whole forest as if it were a salad. And without a doubt, his favorite delicacy was the clouds in the sky.
3, 5, 4, fun. I love eating clouds. Yum, yum, yum. Yum, yum, yum. Yum, yum, yum. Yum, yum, yum.
Fresh, spongy, the kind he ate so many of that, well, he'd almost always end up with a bellyache.
Ooh. Oh.
Why, he had such pains in his belly that he'd end up crying, and the flow of his tears created great floods and torrents. Soppo lived quietly and just how he liked, fearing nothing and no one, coming and going as he pleased. However, despite all that, while he wasn't happy, he didn't even have one single friend. What's more, every time he visited a country, there was nothing but problems. With him eating so many clouds, the rains for the crops would disappear. And, well, what with his stomach aches and crying and all, everything would then get flooded. Not to mention all the woods and farms that he would eat his way through. Whenever he was spotted, everyone would flee in terror.
Oh no! It's that cloud-eating giant! I'm getting out of here!
Yeah, me too. Now he's eating trees.
What are you guys afraid of? Oh no! A giant! And so, Soppo never got to spend any time with anyone at all. One night, seeing him crying, various stars came down from the sky and asked him why he was so sad. On hearing his story, they replied,
Poor giant.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to make friends.
Yet the Earth is the most special planet of all, and it's full of kind friends.
Yeah, chock full, chock full.
There are a lot of friends on this planet.
But where can I find friends? How do I do that?
replied the giant.
By giving people a hand.
Or doing something nice for them.
That is what makes friendship.
Yeah, didn't you know that?
Silly giant. No wonder he has no friends.
Gee,
Sighed Soppo.
that never occurred to me. What did you guys do to make friends?
Well, we learned to show people the way at night.
And served as guides to many sailors.
They're all great friends. They tell us stories.
And keep us company every night.
So, the giant and the stars kept on chatting for a while, and over the following days, Soppo thought about nothing else but ways to find friends. But, well, he couldn't think of any way to manage it. Several days later, he went back to ask for help from the moon. Being old and wise, the moon answered,
You won't know how to help someone until you know them well. What do you know about these people you want to become your friends?
Soppo thought for a while, because, well, really, he knew hardly anything about human beings. There were so many that, well, he never worried much about them. So he thought to himself he would find out about them, and he spent long days observing their little lives. This is how he discovered why everyone ran off when seeing him. And he realized he was causing droughts by eating up all the clouds, and that his weeping flooded them out. And he learned 1,000 other things that filled him with pity and joy. That night, the giant ran to greet the stars.
Now I know. Now I know how I'm gonna make friends. By eating and crying.
And so it was. From that day on, Soppo watched the skies, and when the clouds were preparing enormous storms, he would feast himself on some of them. Then, when he spotted some place where there was a shortage of water, he would cry above it. Before long, Soppo changed from being the worst that could happen to a country to being a blessing for everyone.
and he was never short of a good friend to spend a while with, listen to, or to offer a helping hand.